Hey, it's my voice again. This is becoming a bit of a trend. What you're hearing now is the first track from my recently released debut album, Escarpments, which is available wherever you listen to music. This song's called Be Home When the Streetlights Turn On. Kind of evocative to me of your parents kind of kicking you out of the house for the day to go play with your friends and don't come home until it's dark. I don't know if that happens anymore. I may be showing my age. In any case, my pal Infinite Replay, who's a great producer, you should follow him everywhere, has been doing track breakdowns of how we make songs in the computer using Bitwig. And I thought it might be fun on the flip side to see how I do things in mostly the Deluge with some occasional friends. In this particular case, one morning I was messing around with the circuit looking for cool synth pads and things because I was looking for inspiration. I was trying to get out of my regular workflow on the Deluge, and there's some nice sounds in here that I rarely get the chance to use. So I thought this pad was nice. So I started bouncing around with B major, using a C sharp to anchor things, bouncing around back and forth with a chord progression, sketched it out with drums and things on the circuit. I find the circuit is a great portable sketch pad, and then when I want to push it a little further, take things into the Deluge where I can make the full track. In this particular case, I've got a MIDI track now sequencing the circuit from the Deluge. Over here, you'll see, if you're familiar with the Deluge, you might recognize arranger mode. If you're unfamiliar, this is where you can kind of lay things out like a DAW timeline. So the blue would be the verses, magenta's the choruses. There's an orange kind of bridge area that I'll get into later. So I've got this circuit now in here via MIDI. And then the Deluge community is great for sharing multi-sample instruments and resources. So I've got this other kind of string orchestral sound, playing the exact same chord progression as the circuit, but just panned differently. So when I add them together, you get a nice stereo layer of kind of warmth, inviting kind of progression. And that's the anchor of the track. Then the rest of the layers here, you can see these are the patterns and sections I needed to create. This is song mode. When I go back to arranger mode, you can see how it's all laid out. It's actually a pretty simple track in the end, but there are two drum layers using my favorite acoustic drum samples. I believe it's a 60s Rogers Fairfax kit that I got for free online somewhere, but you can hear a couple versions of each drum. I've added some snare or I've added some reverb to the snare, and then some delay to the hats, and then I've pitched some of the cymbals to give it a bit of fun movement. Pitching drums has become something I do quite a bit. People are commenting on it already. I'm not going to stop, so get over it. It's fun. This is a secondary version of that same kit where I've pitched the entire thing up a bit and added some stereo echo and things like that to it. So when I play that kit, you can see maybe the lights there because I recorded the pitch automation manually, kind of turn the pitch up and down to give it a bit of texture. Now when I add them together, you got some acoustic drums in the forefront, but there's some movement and some kind of quirk to the rest of it that I kind of like for that groove. Then you bring in, there's Deluge synth bass. People talk about how the Deluge synth engine is lacking, but I disagree. In this case, I made this this bass patch using the subtractive synth engine. You might need headphones or monitors to hear it, but I love it for the bit of a low-end growl. Put it together with those drums. Now you've got a nice little groove going. Bring in those two pads. There's the basis of the track. And then this extra layer we've got here, this is my friend's kalimba. So my friend Joey has a farm in Bancroft, Ontario, and on the nightstand of his guest room is a kalimba, which I sampled when I stayed there into the Deluge mic, cut it up into a multi-sample instrument, and now you can hear it's just a nice, bouncy kind of melody line. Joey, if you're listening, I use your kalimba all the time now. I'm probably going to have to stop soon because it's very obvious, but I love it. And so now that comes in with everything else to complete the track, really. Like I said, gives it kind of almost that vocal melody. I wanted to keep this instrumental, but still have that little piece that drives you through with a bit of an earworm. So here, you've got the kalimba kind of leading you through over the groove. And it's hard to hear, but there's also this other layer, final layer of long samples of children, in this case, children in Prague playing on a park. I'm not sure what they're saying, hopefully nothing derogatory. And then in the bridge, there's another sample, same idea, children in Santiago, Chile on a park. Again, don't know what they're saying. Hopefully nothing that's going to get me in trouble. But I thought that was a nice layer to add underneath the whole thing to give it that playful texture and kind of just, it pops in every now and then, not too overt. In the bridge, we've got that kalimba is back, but I've cloned it and added an arp to it. So you can hear the arp here, and then I've got the original doing the verse melody, and then those pitched drums. Just simple. There you go, you got the bridge, the verse melody is back, and then the original drums come back a beat or two before everything else to give a bit of a fill. And now we're back. So that's the track basically. The arp is going for a bit, and then we'll go back to the chorus, do that a couple times, bring it back down, but those are all the track elements. What I do is I'll get everything working the way I like it, sounding the way I like on the Deluge, using the limited EQ just to kind of make room for the bass, sidechain some things, there's some reverb on the master, and then record it into Reaper, where I then do things like deresonate, saturate, compress, limit, a little mastering chain I have in there. That might be something that could make for a video another time if you want to see how I finish tracks once I'm happy with them. In this case, I recorded the entire sample layer of the kids playing separately because the Deluge CPU sometimes drop that out to make room for the others, because I've got all these multi-sampled instruments and arps and delays and reverbs and things going. So it kind of made it okay for the Deluge to not worry about that one long track, because those are huge long samples of kids playing in a park that I want for that texture, but I don't want the Deluge to have to concentrate too much on the CPU power to make that happen. So I recorded that in separately in Reaper, added it in so that all the levels were the way I wanted, and then that's kind of it. This is Be Home When the Streetlights Turn On. Like I said, I could do more of these type of breakdowns, show how simple my process is. I mean, I agonize over a lot of this stuff, and I spend a lot of time trying to perfect it, and then I get it into Reaper, do a bit of a mastering chain, some tricks in there, and then it's out for release. So hopefully you got something from this. To me, even if this is just to remind me how I did things, I'm happy. If you've watched this far and you've learned something or appreciate some kind of inspiration or whatever, that I'm glad, and I'll do more of this. And otherwise, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Check out the album anywhere you listen to music. Escarpments by Bay Mud.